morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, Out of Voice Radio. So today, we're going to be looking at a card which is definitely, and I mean with absolute certainty, definitely going to be censored, reworded, changed, however you want to phrase it, when it comes out over here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Lickilicky. Now, Lickilicky is a colourless Pokemon, which is quite nice. It means that you will be able to use double colourless energy to pay the attacks. It means that it can be teched into any deck you like, because of course it's a colourless Pokemon. The downside, of course, is that you will be hitting absolutely nothing for weakness. Nothing is weak to colourless. It's a very meh, very bland, very colourless, I suppose, kind of typing. You can't have it all, ladies and gentlemen. You can't have it all. Nothing's weak to Lickilicky. Retreat cost of 3 is a lot, but you do get Heavy Ball, which is quite nice. The weakness to fighting, however, is a bit of a pain, because Buzzwole is everywhere. Buzzwole has strong energy. Buzzwole has Fighting Fury Belt, which means that against a fighting weak Pokemon, you can actually, with a Buzzwole, be doing 120 damage for a single energy from the very first turn of the game. 30 for Jet Punch, plus the 20 for the strong energy, plus the 10 for the Fighting Fury Bout puts you up to 120 with the weakness. Good news for Lickilicky, 130 HP, means that you will be able to tank that hit, which I suppose is pretty nice. But of course, the headline for this video is the ridiculously named attack. Now, I generally get my translations from the lovely Autobot Tesla on Twitter, who translated this as Death by Licks. That seems overly aggressive. I thought, I'm not 100% sure. That doesn't seem like a very family-friendly name for an attack on a Pokemon card. So I went over to Pokebeach.com, I got their translation, and they called the attack Lick to Death. So whether it's called Lick to Death or Death by Licks, both of which are basically the same thing, that is an overly aggressive attack name, and I feel 100% certain that this will be censored when it's released in the US, Europe, etc. You cannot have a reference to death on a children's card game card. It's not happening, and I feel extremely confident it won't happen. And if you want to know my pedigree in these predictions, might I refer you to the last time I told you an attack name would definitely get censored? And it did. It was the Incineroar from Shining Legends, which had the attack name in Japan of Goddamn Punch. Yeah, that's quite a lot. I told you with a high degree of certainty that it would not have that attack name when it came out in the US, Europe, etc. And as you can see from the picture on the screen, it did not come over here with the attack name Goddamn Punch. It was changed to the delightfully adorable Profane Punch, which might as well be called Naughty Word Punch. And honestly, I feel like I would have been an awful lot happier if it had been translated as Naughty Word Punch. All this goes to say there is absolutely no way whatsoever this card gets printed in English with the attack name of either Licked to Death or Death by Licks. Whatever it's called, it won't be called that. But now that we've got the naming controversy out the way, we can have a look at the attack, and it's actually pretty good. It's not a bad attack at all. What you do is you flip a coin until you get a tails for free energy. You do 50 damage for each heads that you hit. Okay, it's alright, hit a couple of heads, do 100, it's not terrible. But if the first coin flip is a tails, you actually get automatic paralysis. Now, automatic paralysis is good, and I'm aware it's kind of weird calling it automatic paralysis when you have to flip a tails to get it, but shh. You don't do any damage here, and that's a big, big problem as far as I'm concerned. I love paralysis, but the whole point of paralysis is you use it like Excelgor used to use it, or like Vanillux used to use it. You do a little bit of damage, and you paralyze them, and you basically sit there going, well, now you're paralyzed, so there's nothing you can do. Those cards, as I've mentioned in a few videos in the past, were played with Vileplume, which meant that your opponent couldn't play something like a switch or an escape rope to get out of it, so there was nothing they could do. Now, nowadays, it wouldn't be quite so effective anyway, because we have both Guzma and we have Ace Roller, either of which will get that Pokemon out the active and out of paralysis. But either way, paralysis is good. I'm just a little bit worried that doing 0 damage means that you're not actually doing any damage, which I know sounds terribly obvious, but you're not getting yourself any closer to winning the game. I suppose you could make an argument here that if your opponent constantly gets paralyzed, they can't do anything, but they'll still be drawing a card at the beginning of every turn, and sooner or later they'll lose, because if you can't draw a card at the beginning of your turn, you'll deck out and lose, okay? But even so, I'm not a huge fan of this at all. But paralysis to buy a turn or two while you set something else up, that's alright by me. And I'm only talking about hitting a tails here. If you can hit a few heads in a row, this could build up. It's a lot to ask for. But with a choice band, really the magic number here is 4. If you can hit 4 heads in a row, you're doing 230 damage. Well, that's enough to KO a Gardevoir GX that's seeing quite a lot of play. It's enough to KO a Golisopod GX, which is seeing a fair amount of play. And it's enough to KO a Zoroark GX, which is seeing a humongously massive amount of play at the moment. So you can get some KOs here. Now, of course, if we follow the statistics through, hitting 4 heads in a row is actually a 1 in 16 chance, which is not actually terribly likely, but let's not forget about the Victini from Guardians Rising, which means you can reflip these coins if you like. Now this is quite nice, because it means that if you really want that paralysis to buy a turn, you can use Victini and you've got a 3 in 4 chance, a 75% chance of hitting paralysis to buy yourself a turn. If you want to do damage, you can just reflip with Victini. Minimum here, you're doing 50 damage. Or paralysis. Either of which is not terrible. I mean, 50 for free energy is terrible, but at least it's not nothing. And if you're feeling really lucky, you can just go, I only hit 3 heads with Lickilicky. Let's use a Victini to see if I can hit that 4th. Yeah, it's a coin flip, and yeah, it's asking a lot. But we've seen loads of these attacks, which are X amount of damage for every heads that you can hit. But most of the time, if you just flip a tail straight away, you do no damage. At least let's give Lickilicky some props here for actually giving paralysis if you do no damage. It's better than most of these kind of attacks. And then we end up with the second attack, 4 energy, 110 damage. I mean, look, you can use double colorless energy, that's cool. You can use 2 double colorless energy, that's cool. You can tech it into any deck you like, so maybe you're playing it with Silvally, and that gives you a little bit of energy acceleration. Or you're playing it with my boy Registeel, and that gives you a little bit of energy acceleration. Honestly, I can't get behind this attack. It's way, way too expensive. But we've got an attack which is definitely going to be renamed because the attack name is horrific for children. Then we build in the fact that it's one of these attacks we've seen over and over again, X amount of damage for every head, but you get to do paralysis if you flip a tails, and all of a sudden here, we've actually got the makings of a really quite fun card. And for that reason, I'm giving Lickilicky between 2 and 3 Wassies. I don't expect this to see a huge amount of play. I don't expect this to see some huge representation at the top tables in loads of major tournaments. But I do believe, quite strongly, that it's a fun card, it's an interesting card, it deserves a video, and I think between 2 or 3 Wassies is about right. Although do remember, and I cannot stress this enough, we don't give half Wassies, because that would be barbaric. But as with all of these kind of cars, ladies and gentlemen, I want to hear from you guys in the comment section. That's what I really enjoy about these videos, reading your comments, so get them down there. Maybe suggest what this attack might be called when it comes over to the UK, US, Europe, etc. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus pods and so on, you can do so by going to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far, the most important thing as always in this holiday season is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross and you've been watching PTCG Radio.